And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today, I am talking with Jay Aigner. Jay, thanks for squeezing me in and spending some time with me today.
Thanks, Michael. It's great to be here.
Well, you are welcome. It's going to be a really interesting, fun conversation. Jay does something I've never had anybody on my podcast, Jay, who does anything remotely close to what you do. It's going to be a fantastic conversation. Jay and his company, they do quality assurance testing for software, if I get it right. And I want to know, before we dive deep into the pool of this conversation, Jay, how in the world did you get to doing this?
I've always been somebody who likes to break things, so it just kind of naturally happened. But I went to school to be a programmer, and it's funny enough, I'm on your show, I always use this analogy that I feel like to be a good programmer is to be like a really good author, right? Anybody could write a book, but to write a top 10 bestseller, like that's another level of talent. And I felt the same way about programming. I didn't feel like I had that in me to want to be that sort of programmer at the top level. And luckily I got bailed out. I got interviewed in college to be a software tester for a game company. I went to Full Sail University to make video games. So I ended up testing the old touchscreen bar games. I don't even remember the photo hunt games that are they were on the bar top. I tested those for years, got to do game design there. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth in testing and bounced around a bunch of different places, started doing consulting. And then one day figured out that I could hire people to do testing for me. And, we've kind of grown ever since then.
That is fantastic. I love that. I love stories of how do people get started. And Full Sail is a great university. I've only known one or two other people who've gone down there, but they have a great reputation.
It's very cool.
So let's talk about, what you do, because this is new to me. It's new to my audience. I'm sure I want to hear more about it, because it's probably more common to what I probably know more about what you do than I think I do, right? Talk to us about what is software, what is quality assurance for gaming or software development? What is it? What do you do?
So basically we make sure that, when programmers sit down and build an application, when it ships out to the App Store or to the web or wherever it goes, that it doesn't explode in their customers' hands. So when they go to use it and all the functionality that comes along with it, all the interdependencies and the interfaces and all the things that have to happen to make sure those applications work, that's our job. We go in, we test it. And a lot of these companies, they just want to make cool stuff. They don't want to have to worry about which browsers do I test on and which version of iPhone, and how do I make sure that I can have 50,000 people use my application so it doesn't explode. So that's where we come in, as well as security testing to make sure the bad guys don't come in and steal everybody's data. So it's kind of the full gambit of manual, automated performance and security testing. So everything from kind of smaller startups to enterprise, we are the QA team for a lot of those companies.
That is fascinating. Yeah, a big name of a computer manufacturer just came to my mind going, do you work with them maybe? Because everything they put out has a bug in it or something. It's like, can you run it by Jay and his team, please?
Yes, please do.
That's fascinating. So it really never dawned on me. My son is a gamer, right? And I've watched him, and dude, there is a ton going on in those games. I can't even imagine how much programming. It never really dawned on me that they do need to take it through quality assurance before they release it, but then different browsers, different phones, all of that security. So that's a whole different world, man. So you're like,
it is.
I was going to say security guards, but you're a whole lot more than that. You're the guys who, in a sense, when you get a program, let's say from somebody, a gaming program, is your MO, is it like, how can we break this to test it, or do you have some other process that you're going through? How do you? I'm just really curious now.
That's a great question. We basically we want to make sure that it functions as intended first and foremost, right? So you call it kind of happy path testing, right? So can I log in? Can I create an account? Can I do the specific things and whatever the application is that I'm supposed to do? Can I change my password? Can I do all these things? Can I interact with the application the way it's supposed to? And then, yes, we try to break it. We try to put in the wrong information. We try to use stuff you're not supposed to, because as everyone knows that make software, users don't use it as intended. They do things that, they push the buttons you shouldn't push in the order you shouldn't push them. So our job is to, like you said, essentially be the last line of defense I kind of think of us as, you know, they have the backstop behind the catcher in baseball. Like we're that backstop. So the ball doesn't get, you know, out into the crowd. Like we are kind of the last line before it goes out to your customer's hands to make sure that it functions the way it should. And specifically, so those customers have a good experience, right? I mean, as soon as somebody goes to use your app and it breaks, or you know, you've used a lot of bugs and stuff, either they don't use it, they tell their friends that this app is no good, or they leave a bad review on the Apple Store or whatever. And that's kind of the lifeblood of applications these days.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times, Jane, and this is no surprise to you, that I've downloaded an app on my iPhone. I've gone to it. I've tried to do something. I am not a techie, so it has to be like stupid simple,
Sure.
and it has to work. And within about a minute or two, I've deleted it from my phone.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't have time, interest, energy to figure this out, you dummies. You should have hired Jay and made it work.
That's it.
And I'm such an Apple fan. Okay, so we're an Apple family, company, everything. Because I remember I used to be PC, right? And you know, PCs, well, I don't want to go there. And you pull out the box and you have like, you know, 18 pieces of stuff. And we finally bought a Mac, and I remember pulling it out, and it had one cord. I plugged it in, I hit the power button, and it came up with that beautiful sound. And then it said, "We're searching for the internet right now. Oh, you're now on the internet. Please click this button." And I was like, oh, I mean,
yep.
So that is the experience that you are bringing to software developers, really. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. You know, a lot of what you described is really good user experience design, and you know, those are the folks that work on the products that we work on. And even if you have the greatest user experience design and programmers doing it, they make mistakes. There's bugs, there's unintended things that happen. And so even if, you know, all the people at Apple did the things right, if there wasn't somebody making sure that those things did what they were going to do, you still may not have the greater experience you have at the end, right? So it's a full team effort, and it's been more and more of a team effort over the last decade or so. It used to be much more of a us versus them, where developers used to hate us, you know, for finding their bugs, and you know, but now they see the upside in providing that good user experience for customers like you, that opens the box, it works, and everybody's happy.
Absolutely. And I'm a fan, right? Obviously. And when you're gaming, I'm sure, and again, I don't know much about that world, but I assume people who develop games, if one's successful, well, we're going to create another game. And in my head as a user, I'm expecting a similar experience.
Yep.
And that's where y'all would come in. How do you work with companies? Do they see you as like this vendor guy, or do they see you more really as a partner in the entire development process? You just happen to be that backstop. How's that work?
That's a great question. We function as both. We like to be more of the technical partner when it comes to QA. I mean, we work with custom software development and SaaS companies for the most part, right? So they're either companies that make software for other businesses, where they're just a production house and they make a bunch of different stuff, and we QA all their different applications for their portfolio. Or it's a custom, you know, it's a SaaS company that makes a product and they disseminate that out themselves. So in either one of those instances, either we are kind of the overseer of QA for a development house that does a bunch of different projects, or we may just be, you know, the team that does it for a SaaS company, or we may just be brought in at the end to implement automation. Because as you can imagine, for let's say like a big banking app that has, you know, a million different things you can do on it, every single time you make a change that you have to test things, you couldn't possibly do that manually, right? So you have to automate some of those tests. We also come in kind of from a project to project basis and act as that specialized automation partner that come in and automate, you know, set up automated testing for some of these bigger applications.
What a world you live in, dude. I was just sitting here thinking banking. Yeah, we use a banking app. My wife uses about 4 of them for different things. But this is where we live right now, is on this little thing.
Yep.
And on computers. But people like me, I don't even think about quality assurance. I expect it to work.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's why you have a job, right? because you could create anything. But if it has bugs and things in it, it's not going to be good, and I'm going to go to a different bank. Nothing more frustrating than a dumb app that doesn't work, or a website that doesn't work.
Exactly.
And so whether you are, and I love how you brought in banks, because that's one of my questions was, okay, I get gaming and why, business applications. Let's talk about that, because my audience, a lot of them are businesses. I mean, I've got a few software developers too in my audience, so they're going to hear this too and go,
Sure.
but let's talk about business applications, small business, large business. If I want to create an app for my company, do I hire somebody? Do I get one? How do I know it works? I mean, let's talk about all of that. How does this work in business?
Yeah. I mean, gaming isn't even something we do that much anymore. I would say we're we have some VR applications, which are pretty cool to test, and they're, on the VR headsets and stuff, but those are more medical and military software at this point. But like B2B stuff, business stuff, typically the scalability is what we offer, because if you could imagine the software development process, it's let's build this thing. Oh my God, we need to test it. We've got to test it. It goes out to the world, and then you wait, right? And you go, okay, well, what do the customers think of it? And it's got to get this period where it's out there and it's doing its thing. And you go, okay, we got to fix all these different things. Maybe in the next couple of months or next couple of weeks, we're going to put out another release that has a bunch of bug fixes or some new features in it. The advantage of working with us is we can scale up and scale down during those times, right? So if you hire a W-2 person and say, oh, we've got to hire 10 QA testers because we've got this big release coming out. Well, guess what? Those guys are gonna be sitting on their hands for the next 3 or 4 weeks as that release has gone out to the public. Everybody's using the application. There's not a lot of stuff going on. So with us, you can scale back down, and then, oh wait, we've got another release. It's about half as big as the last one. So we'll scale about half to where we were before, scale back down, scale back up, scale back down. It's a really cost-effective way. And I used to not even pitch really to try to combat the W-2 world where people would say, we're just going to hire a W-2 person. Now I go, I don't think that's the right option, because, hiring a team like us, we can come in quickly. We're not bargain bin prices. We're not over the moon prices. We're somewhere in the middle. We're affordable, but we do a lot of really good work. So we've got a really good model where we're affordable, we're scalable. And if you're going to go build an application, and we have a lot of people who aren't really tech people who bring us in, who are like, I've been told that my application is not where it needs to be. I need somebody to go through it, and it's basically an audit, right? And say, where are we at today? And then we kind of roll in, and we're their continued support from then on out as they build new stuff, deploy new features, fix new things. We are the guys that are in there constantly testing the application.
Interesting. Now, all right, and that spawned another question. You're the backstop. You're the last thing, right? At the same time, do companies, as they're building something like this, do they bring you in and say, okay, we have an app that's going to be, have 6 different functions? Do they build one and bring you in to make sure that's, because I cannot even imagine getting an app done going, oh man, we screwed up on the first step.
Right.
How does that work?
Yes. The smart ones do. We work with a lot. I mean, typically more experienced development shops or companies or, heads of engineering know that, right? They know that they need incremental QA, and even more importantly, involved even higher level than that. Like, think about if you have an application and you're about to build a feature, the value in having a QA person there who's tested all your previous features to go, wait, before you go spend all the time for your designers and for your developers and for your guys to deploy all this stuff, do you remember what happened last time? That broke all these different pieces, or that didn't really work very well last time. So having the people who have tested it as far up in the chain as we can get is typically where we like to be. And then we kind of cover the entire software development process.
Okay. And because of the team and the way you work with different industries, different companies and things, do you have a better, a broader perspective, so that when you're brought into a new company, let's say somebody hires you, and you can say, oh, time out, we saw this in a different company. Here's what happened. Let's make sure that we avoid it. Does that?
1,000,000%. Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, and I say no disrespect when I tell you this, but I've probably seen it before, right? Like, everybody, yes, people build exciting, new, unique things all the time, but I can almost guarantee you we've seen it before, and we know how to test it. We know how to beat it up. We know which browsers it probably should be run on. We know probably, what other things it may break if you put something like that in your project. So we've got a lot of experience, like you said, from fintech to healthcare to VR applications to e-commerce. I mean, just about every vertical, you name it, we've tested it, and it definitely gives us a leg up when we go into a project and they go, hey, we're building this e-commerce thing. And we're like, yes, we got you covered, because we've done that inside and out. We know how inventory management system works and payment portals and all these different things. So yes, the experience from previous projects definitely carries over.
That's amazing. That is so cool. How long have you guys been doing this?
I've been doing it for I mean, we've been doing it for around, I'd gauge everything based on the age of my children. So around 7 years is when I kind of started doing, freelancing and consulting. And I've built it up, and now we've got around 60 people, but I built it up over probably around the last 7 years or so.
Okay. Way to go. This is amazing. And silly question, but again, I don't know your industry at all. This is really, really fun. Are there other people that do what you do? I assume there are. I mean,
Yeah. Weirdly enough, maybe not weirdly enough, and there's probably a reason for it, but um, India has a very, very large QA contingent. And if you look at a lot of these companies, a lot of them go back to India. And there's not a ton that do what we do that are based, especially on the East Coast, definitely not in Philadelphia. In the United States, there's certainly other software testing agencies out there. But and there's other big enterprise level, companies like Accenture and some of these other companies that do software testing at a large scale. But we've got a pretty good sweet spot for the small, medium-sized business.
that's awesome. And you work with businesses all over the country, all over the world. I mean, it really doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We've been remote for, as long as we've been doing this, so it doesn't matter to us.
Thank you. Great. Yeah. Being remote. Wow. This is really, really intriguing. When I first thought about this conversation, I'm like, I don't even know what we're going to talk about. And right now I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to ask you all all the questions I have. Something that I saw, I think it was on your website or something, you've got zero effort QA.
Yeah.
All right. Explain that zero effort thing. What does that mean?
It just means that kind of like we talked about before, where they don't have to worry about knowing all the things, because as with any other function in a software organization, you have to have expertise, and you have to build that expertise into your team. And you don't have to do that if you work with a company like us. We bring that piece of the puzzle with us, and you don't have to worry about all the different things I mentioned. You don't have to build up an entire knowledge base around quality assurance and build a team around that. We bring that. So it is essentially zero effort, where you onboard us and we become your team, and you don't have to manage us. You don't have to manage what we do. We know what we're doing. We just bring results.
Yeah. And that's really important, because I mean, entrepreneurs and I can only imagine developers, they're wicked good at what they do.
Yep.
But that's different, I assume, than quality assurance and testing and all of that. So you allow them to stay focused on what they do best, and then let you come out and say, okay, hey, we tested it. Good. Do you give like a report card at the end, and then recommendations on how to correct things, or what's the result? Curious.
So typically when let's say we're coming into a new application that hasn't had QA, we build a test plan. So a test plan is basically everything you can do in the application documented from a user perspective, right? Like, how do I log in? How do I do these different things? And it's two fields. It's the steps to do that, and it's the expected results. And as we're writing those up, so you should say, if we're logging in, after you log in, the expected results is I'm at the dashboard screen, right? So that test would pass. As we write those test cases up, we're executing them along the way. And as we're executing them along the way, if some of the things don't work, that's a bug, right? So we report those defects as we go, and we basically get a baseline. So you get a baseline of like, here's the snapshot of my application's quality today. And then from that point, we basically become your ongoing QA team, where as they fix those things, they'll deploy those fixes. We'll test to make sure that those fixes were actually done properly. And yeah, so every time they go to do a release, there's a report of all the tests that have passed and failed. And we work very tightly with the development teams to say, this is exactly because that's the biggest thing, is being able to clearly and concisely communicate to developers, which is a different kind of communication, as I'm sure you're aware. You got to communicate to developers and stakeholders, right? To business folks, and say, this is what it was supposed to do. This is what it did. And this is how I made it do that. Right. Yeah. And if you can do that, then the developer can go in, they can do the same things you did. They can make the error reproduced, and then they can fix it. They can run the same steps again and make sure it's fixed. And then from that point on, that bug's fixed. We verified ourselves, and then you move on to the next.
That's awesome. That is so very cool. I had another thought that just hit my mind, but I can't think of where in the world it just went. But it had to do with there was. I'm on Apple, right? And they're getting so big and doing so many things. But I get Apple updates, and they say click here to see the updates. And I don't know why, Jay, but sometimes I actually click that dumb button, and it has this whole list of things that I'm thinking, that's what you do. They find bugs, they hire you, you fix it, and now they bring an update.
Yep.
Whether it's is that right? I mean,
That's it.
ballpark?
You got it. 100%.
I love it.
100%.
Every time I see an update now, I'm going to think of you.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Jay, the update guy. Helping people with quality assurance and software. Wow, I can only imagine the future growth plans for your company, because I think software is going to be around for quite some time.
A little bit.
And Lord knows bugs are going to be there, because it's all written by humans.
That's right.
And the bad guys are out there trying to break things and do stuff, so you got to protect against that too. Very intriguing business and concept. How do people get a hold of you if somebody's out there going, oh, yeah, I've got a SaaS thing, or I've got where do they go? What?
JDAQA.com, and just click the let's talk button, I think it is, and grab a time on my calendar. We'll hop on, and even if we're not the right fit, we should at least point you in the right direction to where you can go to get some assistance, because we're also partnered with a bunch of really cool automation tools, like I said, to kind of cut down on all that automation. I mean, all the manual testing. We also partner with a lot of really cool automation frameworks. So if somebody's looking for advice on which tools to use, and which security measures they need, what performance metrics they need to be measuring, we're right there.
Dude. Okay. JDAQA.com.
Yes,
that
sir.
always has a rhythm to it, man. You should put some song to that or something.
I'm glad you like it. You may be the first person who actually liked that name. Everybody else tried to pronounce it Jadaquah at first, which I love. I love the pronunciation of it, but no, I like that you like it.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So I'm going to capture all of that, put it in the show notes as well. So if you're out and about or writing code right now, just come back, look at the show notes, find out how you can connect with Jay, and get some quality assurance for your software, and make that user experience so much better, because that does build trust and loyalty and raving fans, which is really what you're after anyway. So Jay Aigner, thank you, man. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for having me on.